make things, and sometimes I make things happen. And when I'm really lucky, the things that I make things happen. And currently, I'm director of the Bealtaine Festival. So for those of you that don't know, it's a nationwide celebration of creativity and older age that starts today, the 1st of May, and runs on for a month. And it's made with hundreds of organisations, active retirement groups and care homes and individual artists and hospitals and a really diverse gang of people. And together with them, we make about 3,000 events over the next month. So I'm standing here looking for 100 events a day for the next month, and the last thing that I want to be doing is talking to you about failure. However, I'm here, so part of me must want to do that. And I haven't always been the artistic director of Bealtaine Festival, oddly enough. I'm now 47, and so, like many people, if you stick around for long enough, you end up doing lots of things. It's kind of by the law of averages. You know, you end up being a barman and a worker in a creche, and I worked in a warehouse once, packing boxes, where I was the least qualified person because I only had a degree and they had doctorates. And I made carnival in Notting Hill and Trinidad, and I made fireworks displays, and I did Patrick's Festival for a while, and all sorts of things. And quite often I found myself working with different communities, defined in all sorts of different ways. And in many of those communities, art wouldn't really have been a popular pastime. It was not something that really existed. Creativity, innovation existed there, but art, not really. Art was something that happened in other places. It was to do with emotion, it happened elsewhere. And yet, oddly enough, that was why art was really important. Like, there was loads of innovation. Like, somebody once showed me that if you take a tennis ball and slice it in half and put it on the back of a car with central locking and take a mallet and belt it, air goes down the doors and all the doors pop open. You get them drive away. Genius. Inspired genius. Not only was the brain process to do that incredible, but all the tools that people needed were to hand. It was amazing. And yet that has consequences. And failure in that sort of environment has really serious consequences. It's not the same as if you fail when you're trying to make a poem. And yet, the value of making a poem there is huge, because you can take the words in a sentence and you can move them around, and it's your line, it's your sentence, and you own that world. You can take a lump of clay, you can mess about with it, you can try to make it look like a tree, and it never looks like a tree. It looks like, but eventually you get used to making mistakes, and it looks like the thing that you made, and you made that, and you've got an investment in it, and it's your thing, and you've made this little place of risk in the world that you can play with, just a bit. And you get involved in making theatre, and you can do that on a bigger scale, and you can hear that your voice gets heard in that environment, and that's an amazing thing, because art is made in some places to do with emotion, but in those places art is made to live. It's incredibly important. And yet it's not enough. So it's not enough just to always be in a divided situation. And so I was looking for a way, I've been looking for a way that instead of working in a kind of bipolar environment, wasn't then, I could find a different way through this. And so I spent a while making big festivals and big carnivals, and then I latched onto the idea that there was something around the idea of being old, because old is where we all meet. And if you're really lucky, you might get to be old. So the question is, what kind of old do you want to be? And if you get to be old, you'll discover that there are 3 unique things about art making at older age. The first one is that it's something you've always done. You're Seamus Heaney, you're Mick Jagger, you're Patti Smith, you're Pittman, okay? And there's a familiarity with materials and how you move materials around. Or it's something you've always done. You're a fiddle player who becomes arthritic. You're a dancer and your body changes. You're a confident employee who, on the day that you retire, loses all sense of self in the universe. You don't know where you go. You lose that pattern. And they're really important, because when those people engage with their own creativity and their own art, they create a roadmap for the rest of us. How might we grow old? How might we care for the older us? And once we start to think about how we care for that older us, amazing things start to happen with your relationship with yourself and with the older you and with the world that you live in. When I was about 18 or 19, I was sat on a tube train, a London Underground train, and I lived in a bedsit, and I got no money, and I was wearing a black t-shirt, a crappy black t-shirt, a pair of jeans, and a pair of busted cons, and a pair of lime green jazz socks. And they cost me about a third of what I used to live on in a week, which wasn't a great deal, but a third of what you live on is a great deal. But they made me cheery because I was fairly miserable, didn't know anybody and I was a bit lost. And on this mid-afternoon tube train, got this queen of the underground, this extraordinary woman who had been a famous TV presenter gone to seed fairly badly, and she looked extraordinary. She had got hair piled on top of her head, blonde hair, and a pink line that came through it that she continued in crayon down her face. It's the kind of thing that, you know, a shaman would have done, or a junkie, and she was both. And she sat at the other end of the carriage, and being kind of shy and a bit gauche, I stretched out to show off my jazz socks, but I was too embarrassed to kind of look, so I was going to do this. And the train poodled on, and then the train stopped, and this voice said, "Nice socks." And then out of nothing, she looked at me and she said, "Don't give up," and got off. And I've regretted that I never got off, but because I never got off, I had different adventures. I've had the adventures that I'm having, that I continue to have and I hope to have into the future. And somewhere in the middle of those adventures, I came across this line from James Baldwin, Black American writer. And he said, "People pay for the lives they lead. They pay for the things they do. They pay for the things they do, and more, they pay for the things they don't do. And they do so very simply, by the lives they lead." That's it.